What do you got, Tyler?
All right, we haven't mentioned this yet today, but there was a big trade in the NBA last night that sent Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks to complete the Nova Knicks. As he joins forces with his former college teammates Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and Dante DiVincenzo. But not only did he land 1, 2, 3, he had 5 first-round picks coming the other way, going to Brooklyn in exchange for Mikal Bridges. I ask you guys, does that increase your optimism of a Zach LaVine return being better than anticipated?
Oh, no.
Not for a guy that's been injured as much as he has been. No, you almost have to take 75, 50 cents on the dollar. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Luis Robert. Teams are going to be saying, hey, I'm not paying you full value for a guy that's been hurt.
I would love 75 cents on the dollar for Zach LaVine.
Yeah,
I don't think they're getting it. And Mikal Bridges is a good player, really good player. So I just think that one doesn't have anything to do with the other at this point. And if they could get something for Zach LaVine, he would have been gone. And Wilbon keeps telling us that he was as good as gone last year to Detroit, that they had a deal done, and then he didn't want to go there, so he elected to have surgery. Yeah. But I don't know what's going to happen. I could see a trade happening, but then I keep hearing Casey say that they could look to pair him and Giddey, and maybe you look to rehab his stock and trade him at the trade deadline, and DeMar walks out the door.
That is probably the more likely scenario for a guy coming off surgery to get his value back up. I mean, it can't be any lower. Like, you'd be trading him at his lowest. The team stunk with him, and then he got hurt.
And Wilbon would not be a fan of that. Wilbon thinks you get him out now. You just get
it.
Most Bulls fans, I think, want him out now, too. I think it would turn off a lot of Bulls fans. I don't know how smart it would be just to say, just leave now, no matter what you get. I think there is
most
something.
GMs don't do that. They don't trade a guy at his lowest.
Yeah, I know. You want to build someone's value back up so you can get something for him, because he still has time left on his deal. And you got to take money back, too.
Yeah.
So,
but 5 first-round picks for a guy who's never been an all-star.
I know that, but they feel like he's a finishing piece on that Knicks team.
I mean, just think of it. Is some team going to give 5 first-round picks for Zach LaVine?
I'm not saying 5, but I think 4. The expectation in this town is he may not even be able to fetch an enviable one first-round pick.
Which team, tell me, out there would you believe would say Zach LaVine is the finishing piece to our title contending team?
It doesn't matter if he's the finishing piece to a title contending team. It just takes one GM who wants a scorer on their team.
Well, but the Knicks did that because that's what they believed in. That they're like, look, we got a ton of picks. We're going all in for this guy. Like Tibbs, remember, sat here while the Bulls were really, really close and watched Gar and Pax. I always said this. I coined the term, they would sit on their assets. You know, they always valued sitting on them and having them for tomorrow instead of spending them for today. So they always needed a shooting guard, but they never went out and got that shooting guard. The Knicks are going to go down swinging. They were very, very close. They have Jalen Brunson, who has made himself a star, and they're more willing to say, let's go and try and make it, and we'll worry about tomorrow. And yes, they gave up a ton for this player, but I like it for the Knicks, and I like it for Brooklyn's standpoint. But I just don't think that there is any team who says, I've got right now, coming off an injury, coming off of lack of production, saying we need ourselves some Zach LaVine now.
I don't disagree that there's not many teams thinking that way, and not many that are going to give up a lot for him. Not if they have to take on a lot of the money, you know.
And do you have any faith, Tyler, that this front office could get what another team could get? You know,
for Zach. No,
right?
I don't.
Like last week we talked that they're terrible negotiators.
But if they can get 1 first-round pick for Zach at this point, that's a win, and I'm taking it. I'm running to the bank. And
don't you have to take some salary back, though? I know. I think during the draft it's the least amount, but don't you have to take some salary back?
I'd have to look in. I don't know. I'm not fine tuned with the CBA and how all that how all that works, but I'd imagine there's probably some hang up contract wise, which is why you see so many players get traded around this time.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Mikal Bridges, so he's heading to the Knicks right now. And in case you didn't know, Mikal Bridges has not missed a game since high school.
I saw this. He's a perfect Tibbs guy. How many games will he miss under Tibbs?
I was going to say, when does he miss his first game under Tibbs?
I say like after the 70th game of the season, after he's been, what did Hawk used to say? Ride him hard and put him away wet.
When he's
is that the right term?
I can't remember. When he's averaging like 46 minutes a game, after 70 games.
Bridges had a season where he played 83 games because he was traded mid-season, so he had to play an extra game because his previous team
That's funny.
Was a game behind the pace.
I love that availability, though. We don't get that in Chicago.
So does Tibbs.
So does Tibbs, right.
Tibbs loved it with Luol Deng. Tibbs loved it with all those guys.
Joakim, Taj.
Well, Joe was hurt here and
but
there.
He played more games than he probably should have.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, I would gamble that he misses a game or two, or 10, playing under Tibbs. Especially, they usually end up getting hurt when they try really hard at the end of the year for seeding,
right.
And then it catches up with them in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, Tibbs is the type of coach where, because of overtime, you sometimes average more than 48 minutes,
Yeah.
All right, as for tonight, the Bulls are currently sitting on some assets. They have one draft pick tonight, and they have one draft pick for the whole draft at that. Is there anything that can be done tonight that will inspire confidence in you for the Bulls moving forward?
I think that'd be really hard for it to happen just tonight. Unless they traded Zach in an incredible trade. That would probably be it.
Yeah, if they
traded Zach and the return is good and it was just an A+ trade, that would be about the only thing.
If they picked a lane, I think more so, whether they're going for it and they somehow landed, like if the Suns are interested in trading KD and they somehow landed KD and they're going for it in that regard, or if they just pick a lane and they say, look, here's what we're doing, and we're looking to clean up our books, and we're going to find a way to get our pick back from next year from San Antonio. And we got something for DeMar in a sign-in trade instead of just letting him go via free agency and walking out the door. And we got something more for Zach than we were all anticipating. And we found a way to get rid of Vooch as well. Like,
you're
you know what I
asking
mean?
for a lot right there.
Well,
a lot.
But
I'm just asking for Levine, good trade, move forward.
What was the question again?
Is there anything that can be done tonight to inspire confidence?
I just told you.
You just said a lot, though. You said a lot.
Well, he's done a lot to hurt his confidence.
He needs to do a lot.
He went 3 years without trading a body.
Making a move. So for me, it would be a big Zach LaVine trade. Partly because I've never really been a Zach LaVine fan, so I'm ready to see somebody else come in. But that would be it, and it's the toughest deal to pull off because he's been hurt and he's not that good.
Well, we actually do have some rumblings here about Zach LaVine. This is from Jake Fisher, who's usually been pretty spot on.
Was this new into the newsroom?
This is just now. He is tweeting that Zach LaVine is a less likely trade target now that Alex Caruso has been traded. So it kind of echoes a lot of what we heard about from Casey Johnson as well, and especially with the Sacramento Kings, who are a team that have been tied to him for a while. I mean, even back before the big max contract, they were a team that was tied to Zach LaVine and signed him to an offer sheet, if I remember correctly, as well. But yeah, it looks like Zach LaVine even less likely to be traded.
Is that now because Giddey is now the guy that Ball could have been the facilitator, and they're going to go to battle with that? And why is that? Why is Caruso's trade make it less likely? Explain that to me. Is it because Giddey is now here?
I think a lot of it has to do with what KC was saying about how think about one of Zach's best years was with Lonzo Ball as the facilitator.
So when he's got someone playing downhill with him,
okay, so
and they could push the ball a little bit. So my guess would be they're going to play all three at the same time. They're going to play a lineup with Giddey, with Zach, and with Kobe. And in the roles of just like how they played Caruso, Lonzo, and Zach.
Well, get ready for the worst defensive team in NBA history.
For sure. Giddy and Zach are not good defensive players.
I think Kobe's gotten better, but it's not like he's some defensive stalwart. And then you have Vooch out there, who we know is not privy to defense.
But DeMar probably won't be there. The way it's sounding like, I think the odds of Zach returning is higher now than DeMar returning. And the thing that stinks about that is they may not get anything for DeMar. And you could have traded him. I would have thought like a team that was contending would have given you a pick.
Would have given you a better pick then, just like with Caruso. DeMar could have been a finishing touch for somebody.
I thought so.
Yeah.
At least they still are owed the Spurs a first-round pick for DeMar.
Right.
So
you may get nothing for him, but you still may have to give up a first-round pick for him next year. Think about that.
The best possible thing that could happen right now is Paul George leaving the Clippers, because if he leaves the Clippers, it seems like they are the primary suitor for DeMar DeRozan, and then you could facilitate some sort of trade.
Would they be willing to do a sign-and trade, or would they wait him out to want to bid on him to come back to his hometown and just say, this is probably where he wants to be and we don't need to do a sign-and trade? Do you know what I mean? Like, is giving the Bulls something necessary?
But I think if DeMar wants to maximize his money, then you'd have to get into the sign and trade business. Because I believe the Bulls can offer him more money than what the Clippers could offer him. By the way, we do have a little breaking news here from Woj. Speaking of the New York Knicks, OG Anunoby intends to sign a 5-year, $212.5 million contract to stay with the Knicks.
Wow, because I was saying in the pre-show that there were rumblings that he may go elsewhere, but now they keep OG there. And is Julius Randle is expected to come back, or do you think he would be a trade candidate? That should be a pretty good team.
Yeah, but
what?
Who's your superstar? Like, Brunson's good.
Brunson, you don't think Brunson is a superstar?
Is Brunson going to be a team that can, a player that can be the best player on a championship team?
Well, if you look at the Celtics and what they've just done, as good as Tatum and Brown are we in a new era of NBA where if you have 5 elite level players on the court at the same time, are you better off? Especially now the way the salary cap parameters are situated. You look at what the Suns have tried to do with Durant and Booker and maybe, sillily with Bradley Beal. You might be better off trying to put the best 5 on the court.
But those
superstars be damned.
Now you sound like
solid, but
no, but it's a different NBA. I do believe with the salary cap.
Brunson is really
good.
Really
but you
good.
have how many All-Stars on that team?
On the Knicks?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
but again, wasn't Jalen Brunson scoring at a level in the postseason that players in the history of the game had never done before?
Including Michael, I think.
And it wasn't good enough to get past the Pacers.
Well, but come on now.
OG was
they
hurt.
had no one hurt. They had no one healthy. Including himself.
What's the calling card of Tibbs? These guys get run to the ground, and it's doomed to repeat itself.
But now at least they have more bodies. At least they're deeper, and they're not just relying on one or two.
And they just added the most durable player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Tyler. And it's interesting.
It's a good team. They have a really good
team,
chance.
but this doesn't look like a championship team to me at all.
Really? Like they didn't have
How is
Julius.
this team going to get past the Celtics?
They didn't have Julius Randle, or they didn't have
OG wasn't healthy the last
OG wasn't healthy
3 games.
Or who they just added today. Yes.
Bridges.
Mikal Bridges.
But do either of those get you over the hump of beating the Celtics now?
Everybody has beaten the Celtics until this year. Well, somebody always beat the Celtics until this year.
What's the counter move? I hear what you're saying, Tyler, but I think you make the argument the Knicks were the second best team in the East, and they just didn't get a crack at the Celtics because they were hurt, and now they've added Bridges.
They would have lost to the Celtics this year. Doesn't mean they will next year.
The other thing is the idea that Donovan Mitchell would have made them better. I don't think that was a better path forward.
Sounds like aren't there rumblings that Mitchell wants to go to Miami?
Yes, but there was
Seems
also
like he's going to stay.
there were also
really?
conversations
Yeah.
that the Knicks, if they truly wanted him, if the Knicks were in on that, then they could have potentially pried him away. But I don't think they wanted to disrupt Jalen Brunson having the ball, and teaming him up with Donovan Mitchell.
Boy, how excited would we be here if we had a Knicks level team that they just built?
Oh, yeah, it's much better than what's here. But, it's not like the Pacers were some great team last year
No,
either.
the Pacers. No.
No,
The Pacers were not.
In both cases,
Dinged up or not, the Knicks should have beaten the Pacers.
but in both cases, especially New York, it's an extremely likable team. Who do the Bulls have that's really likable? Caruso is gone.
Kobe White.
Kobe White is one.
DeMar.
At times,
Yeah,
fine, but
DeMar's
he's
likable.
I think
I
Io's
agree.
likable.
But in general,
Io.
the Knicks have a really likable team. I mean, Jalen Brunson won't have to pay for a meal his entire career in that city. They love him there. They love him. So I'm with you, Sylvie. We'd be so excited on draft night with all the maneuverings if the Bulls had a Knicks level team. It's sad. It's so far from that.
So far, we don't even know which way they're going here. I've always said
They don't even have an identity.
No,
They don't have an identity.
And I've said we're probably closer to the Bulls becoming the White Sox of today than many people realize.
And I've soured so much on Billy Donovan. Maybe it's the circumstance he's been placed in. But again, I'm not talking about personally likable. It's not about person, but just likable as a team, as a coach. I'm just so far from it. So far from it.
Do you have any more, Tyler?
So I've got a little NBA draft quiz for you guys, too. Do you want to do that now or do you want to do that later?
Do you want to load up the phones with that?
We can
or,
load up the phones for that, yeah.
When
I've
do you
got-
want to do that? Next?
Let's
or?
do that next. I've got some other stuff here. There was a NFL roster ranking that came out on ESPN.com. This was compiled by a bunch of different writers, and they slotted the Bears at 17th for their overall roster ranking right now. Does that feel right? Too high, too low to you?
I think that's very fair. The Bears at 17, roster ranking, just a tick below half, tick below the midway point.
I feel like
Before a game's been
I
played.
feel like that's an easy answer to say they should be down closer to 20. I think it's a little low roster wise. Doesn't mean it's all going to come together. I think it's a little low. I think they're a little bit better than that. Yeah.
I still think there are question marks with the offensive line and with the defensive line until there are some prove it areas. I think there's room to prove that you're better. I think that's a good starting point.
Look, we're splitting hairs a little bit.
Yeah,
I think they should
right.
be a little bit closer to 15, 14, 13, whatever, but they're probably in the right range, mid-pack.
Because I think wasn't Pro Football Focus very hard on them?
Yes.
As far
yes,
as
they
their
were.
roster was concerned, they had them much lower. So that's why I've just seen some other people rank them. So I think they're much better. They don't have another rush end. They don't have a proven three technique. They don't have a opposite rush edge to, the one guy that they do have in Sweat.
Yeah, but they overcome that in other areas. They have the great three wide receivers. They have the
Sure.
generational quarterback, we think.
Yeah,
although
they have a
unproven,
great
but-
back. Like Waddle says, they'd be great at 7-on-7.
Right.
When,
true.
when you don't need a defensive line or don't need an offensive line, but where do they say you win? You win up front. You still win up front in football.
No doubt. Sweat isn't enough on defense. I agree with you there. I like their offensive line. I've always liked it a little bit better than most people.
Well, what do you like? Who are you for sure about?
Well, the right tackle.
Okay, so Darnell Wright,
Yeah.
you're for sure about.
Yeah, and I feel good about Braxton Jones, though I think he needs help there. So I feel good about both tackles. That's a
Okay.
start. That's a start.
See, I feel okay. I like Darnell Wright. I'm not in love yet. I like him. I'm okay with Braxton Jones. I need to see more. I don't know about the center.
Yeah, the interior, I'm a little less.
I think I call Tevin Jenkins their most talented offensive lineman, but question the availability.
Right.
And then I have no clue about what's his name's availability at the other guard position.
Nate Davis.
Nate Davis.
Right. That's the hole right there. That's the hole.
Well, I just named you three. All three go.
To me, that's that guard position is
all
the hole.
three guards. Like if Tevin's available, that's not a hole, but
Right.
it could be a hole for 5 or 6 games.
Right. Anyway, I like the roster a lot better than we've seen in the last 5 years, 4 years.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, the idea of them being mid-pack makes sense.
Real quick, defensive tackle from the Tennessee Titans, Jeffrey Simmons, was on the Rich Eisen show earlier today, and he was talking about the Week 1 matchup against the Chicago Bears and hoping to give Caleb Williams his welcome to the NFL moment with some trash talk. Quote, "Painted nails, I can't wait to say that to him," Simmons told Rich Eisen. "Most definitely, it's going to be one of them games. I mean, he probably gets smack talked by his teammates right now." Given everything that we've seen from Caleb Williams, how equipped do you feel like he is to handle the mental side of the game? Because we know the trash talk is going to be coming from all different directions.
I think he's well equipped. I mean, he's been a pro style quarterback for a bunch of years at a Division I school. Attention. You think the first time he takes the field against Tennessee is the first time he's going to hear trash talk? I think he's well equipped.
He hears it every day. We saw it, Tyler, in minicamp and in OTAs. That defense is going to be chirping in training camp, and I love that for him. I love it for the team. And that's what you're bringing on opening day is you're gonna try and get to the quarterback, and you're gonna be chirping about his pain and nails like you're a sports radio caller. I mean, give me a break. You're going to go for the low-hanging fruit. I hope those pain and nails throw 4 touchdowns on you.
And he seems like the type, as he's indicated, that loves that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Bring it.
bring it.
Bring it. I mean, if he wouldn't paint his nails if he wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, and there are so many guys who do that these days, too. It's a different generation. People are different in 2024. It may not be for you, but you better get used to it. Because youngsters are different these days.
Yeah, and I think that he's already played enough of big-time college football and the early portion of camp with the Bears. I'm not worried about that at all.
All right, how many callers do you want here, Tyler, for this game?
Why don't we do loaded up 10?
All right, 312-332-3776. Let's go in increments of 5, starting with caller 5, all the way up to caller 50. Every 5 callers, you get a chance to get in at 312-332-3776. The only thing Tyler's telling us is this is draft-related trivia, yes?
For this year, yes.
For this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will share with you the confidence level of Bulls fans going into this year's draft. I got to reset what the poll results are for this. 312-332-3776. We'll have some fun with some draft-related trivia, and we'll have any news that comes through leading up to draft night.